Starbucks for all Vipers, do not fire! Repeat, do not fire! I am a friendly, okay? We're all friendlies! So let's just be friendly.
Greatest contact. Single bogey and it's nearly on top of us.
Identify.
No transponders, no recognition codes. It has to be a silent radar.
Alright, so we kind of have a real delicate balance here on the placement of these decals. I was hoping to run this decal right along that line right there. However, when you're looking at this up close, what you've got is this mark here and that protrusion there and this one here. And essentially, if you move any way but exactly where it's at, this thing really has to crinkle and turn around on a bunch of different angles and so forth, whereas this can literally sandwich right through that. This right here, I've added a little microset to it. It's got a protrusion right now, and I think what will happen is as soon as I get that put in place, I think I've got a little microset, and we'll let that do its job for till it dries, and then we'll start using microsol. And I'll have to slice this and use a little more microset, I will. But essentially, this is a real tight balance. I'm not sure what you guys are going to do that are using the wider, this wider stretch here. You're going to run into challenges where it's bouncing over the top of this protrusion, that protrusion, and that protrusion. And I think that's really going to cause a pretty significant amount of challenge for you for these units. Now they look nice. I will give Moebius credit for that. It would make a nice looking model to do so. But by going with this thinner version, this next one's going to go right here. I think we've made a happy compromise, and hopefully we're on the right track with that. So now let's go ahead and put in this next decal. And it doesn't take long for these Moebius decals to quickly start to separate from their paper and become a true water slide. So I give Moebius a lot of credit for what they've done here, and these just slide really nice, really fast, and they're not too thick, not too thin, and I would say that I'm pretty pleased with the way that those are turning out. So by adding this next one here, again the same thing, it really does. I try to get it on that scribed line, and while not crowding this and this protrusion here, and really trying to open it up as much as possible in the long run. So I think we're actually pretty close on that, and I might just bring that down just a skosh. Skosh being a technical term for just a little ways. And you know, got a lot of guys again use cotton swabs and other things to do that. I find it really hard to move decals around with cotton swab, whereas a real soft polyethylene or polyester polyethylene style brush tip, it absorbs that water pretty quickly. For me, it tends to set those decals in, and when it's set in like that, it gives me a little more padding room to work with. Now once you put microset on that, you really want to be careful. Here's another little tip I picked up from, I think, Model Man Tom maybe. I don't know how many bottles of microsol and microset I spilled, and here's an example right here on my workbench, until finally I saw he was using maybe a stone jar or something like that. So I just went in and grabbed a little mason jar, and then I used the same thing for my glues, you know, kind of the same deal here, and other protrusions. So yes, I'm the sloppy modeler, but at the same time I try to be less so more and more often. And honestly, these two brushes here, this is my microsol brush and this is my soft brush for I'm sorry, my microset and then my microsol, they've had many models under them, and I like using it just the way the bristles move, and it just seems to put bristles move, and it seems to put a lot of microsol exactly where I need it. And so those sit in that particular container all the time, and I've got my other brushes around here. So we've got the one side done. We're going to flip the model around and work on the other side, and I might put the one that goes up on top here just because I'm in a decaling mood. And now I will say this. These decals are awfully orange. And I would think that I would appreciate a deeper red. I'm going to do the Viper Mark II after this shortly. And I might just attempt to paint those, get some mask for them and paint them a deeper red if the color is the same as this, because this is, in my opinion, that is not a red, but that is a deep orange. I might be a little bit color blended a different direction, but I don't really like that decal set there. But we'll live with it because there's nothing else we can do. And like I said, we'll move on to the next stage and go to the next set of decals on this side. We'll be back shortly. Progressing on with the Moebius, the original series Viper Mark I. I've applied the decals to the top half of the Viper. Again, there are some particular spots on here that are really challenging. There's a protrusion there that you have to go over, a protrusion there you have to go over. Just sandwiching in between those. That's going to be interesting the way that turns out. And this looks pretty nice. Again, the other decals have had 2 coats of microsol now, and they're really starting to lay in well. Just got 1 coat of microsol here on the center stripe, along with 1 coat of microsol now on these over here. So they'll wrinkle up and then shrink up and do what they do. Got the nose piece painted here. That is not in yet. It's just in by friction feed. And now that we've got these decals on the top, we'll take a look. I think we've got just a few to do on the bottom. And actually, I think we'll flip that over and do that after this microsol dries. Have started on the pilot, and so here's kind of what we've got going on here. Black boots, gold pants, the brown leather, and then the brown leather for the holster for the gun. And most of this is pretty well done there. On the arm that's missing yet, we've got the arm and the black joystick, and that'll go into the cockpit after we're done for a bit. Looking to put these in once we've got the other piece painted. I did paint the ring on this a silver color, and I like the way that turns out. I think it's going to look great once we fire it up. And I may paint that area right there silver yet, just because I think that might set off that blue glow that comes out rather than that gray that's there. And I think it would fit with the rest of what we've got going on with the plastic piece in that stage. So we've moved on. We've made a lot of progress this evening. This is glued in, and the next step, again, we'll flip this over. Probably the next stage, we will put the decals in, the microsol that, and then I think what I'll do is flat coat. Or I'm not going to use flat coat this time. I think I'm going to use a clear lacquer, not a gloss. I picked this up at the Hobby Shop Model Master, flat clear lacquer, and I think I'm going to try that for a shot and see if how that pulls in. I am concerned about spraying flat over some of this, that it might cause it to pull, but as a lacquer it should adhere okay, and then we'll see how that comes together. But that's a flat lacquer, and I do have the gloss coat as well. So I'll just play around with that a little bit, see which one I like. I have been using this Model Master clear acrylic. Well, I guess that's white primer. I'm sorry, I've got the wrong piece there. I have been using a clear, it must be in the spray booth, a clear from also from Model Master, but it's a water-based acrylic, and it really doesn't provide the gloss. The gloss you see here is Model Master Clear. The gloss you see here is Tamiya's X22 Clear, and this just is a matter. It's crystal clear, and it's simply a matter of spraying enough coats on it to give you that super high gloss, depending on what look you're going for. But again, that looks a little plasticky. Once we've got the decals on, we'll do maybe another gloss coat over that, or another coat of this here type of look to sink all those in and make all that come together. So for now, we're going to sign off, and the next time you see it, we'll probably have the decals on the bottom, and then I'll have to start painting in the details on this engine inlet here. The silver looks nice on the inside. I'm not going to unmask this until I get all the clear coats done, because that cockpit is finished up, and then we'll do it with the other piece. One thing I am kind of thrilled with, and I don't know if you can see it here, I need to be careful, the way that this seam came together. That's the seam where the engine intakes meet the fuselage, and that is just absolutely fantastic in my opinion. I'm really, really thrilled with that. And the same on the bottom. I did manage to seal up that as well and get a really nice seam on all of this. I'm going to stop messing with it or I'm going to screw up my decals. So for now we're going to sign off, and the next time you see it, all of these decals should be set in nice, and then we'll go for the bottom ones. So I guess there's watching paint dry, and then there's watching decals dry. So I've applied the microsol to the underside of the decals here. You can see I'm going to need another couple coats and maybe some microset to these two ends. There's really a nasty protrusion right here and right here. There's really a nasty protrusion on that that's going to cause those decals to float up. So it'll take a little bit. I did use a little poetic license here on the front. Typically there's no red stripe, but I think what I did is this is the red stripe that goes on the model, and then this is another piece of red stripe that would normally go on the top side, but because I had extra, I just went ahead and cut that up and I put that in, and I like it. So, you know, again, it's my model and I'm going to do it kind of my way. I'm going to have some detail painting to do here and here. I did get the black put into the landing gear as I was going to do, and that turned out pretty nice. That's just aircraft interior black. I like that really dark flat, and I think that looks pretty good. And then, you know, from there we'll continue to now start the detailing and weathering. And of course, I did get tripped up again with a Moebius model. Technically, when you put these on, these guns on, what you're supposed to do is put one half of this on and then the other half on the top and sandwich them in between. I think I'm going to be alright. I think what I might just do is just have to shave off these little nubs here and here, here, and here, and then the same on the top side. Slide these on. Again, these are not glued in yet, these wings, so I can pull those out, put that in, and then glue this up and conclude on that piece. And then I'm really enjoying the decals the way they turned out. I've said it before, this really, this looks way too orange to me, but you know, it's what came with Moebius, and it's what we've got to deal with. And then the next piece will be, we'll actually add, the decals to the sides, on both sides of the stabilizer fin. But I want to let all this cure out overnight, and then tomorrow what I'll do is put the landing gear in, glue that in, and then start doing the wiring here in the ship. And then of course I do, like I said, I've got 3 circuits for down below that we'll work through and get power to the base and the other side. Now, one of the things I am considering doing, and I'm not exactly sure how to do it, this kind of very cool little $9 5600 milliamp 5-volt battery. I took the USB, an old USB cable, cut it off, and it gives me my red and black, or red and neutral here. And it does do a nice job of powering this model up. The concern I have is that this is a power button here that if you want to make your unit work, you need to hit that power button. This is fully charged 100%. And I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that I actually can include that into the front end of that to give that display somewhere in my base. And this is kind of just a new little thought. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go with that. We'll have to take some time on it. I wish that would stay on all the time and just be activated by a switch. So I don't know if that's going to work or not. I'll have to just do a little bit of a back end and see how that comes together. So for now, we'll let this dry overnight, and then we'll come back to it. Alright, so welcome back. The sloppy modeler's here, and in full tilt, getting everything finalized around the touch-up paint, and then the gloss coat will be dumbed down with a dull coat, if you will. I'm really now thrilled with the way that the decals have set into this, and then by the time you get a nice dull coat on there, you'll lose all transfer film and everything else. Pulled the wings off, as I mentioned. That was normally you've got these two little stanchions or locator pins that are in the way and go on these areas here. I just hollowed those out. Not my idea, but it works great. And then I can slide these on and off, and then we'll use some glue to lock those down. Working on painting the guns right now, so I'm going to use what I'm going to do is use flat aluminum on the body portion of the gun. This back tip I'm going to use a metallic gray XF56 from Tamiya Paints. And then I'm going to try to leave this here as the color of the hull. And then from here forward, the gun barrels are going to be that XF metallic gray. So I think that's going to give me a three-tone on the guns themselves. Once the guns are painted, I've got the other one to do here. Once the guns are painted, then I'm going to finally add the details around the engine inlet bay. I'm going to take care of a couple of light leaks where these engine shrouds fall onto or clamp onto the main body. And then we'll start looking, once that's done, start doing a little bit of weathering. Again, I've not done weathering before, so it's going to be kind of a new idea. I am working on a new process for powering my models. This is just a little cheap 3600 milliamp 5 volt USB power block. And instead of using a 9 volt battery, all this was wired for 5 volt anyways, 5 volt on the LEDs, 5 volt on the light strips that are in the cockpit. And with 5 volt, there's no need to step anything up or down, and we can go. So light leaks, I'm not sure if you can see them, but there's two on each point right here. Light leak there, and then I'm sure on the same side, on the other side, same thing. I just don't think there's any way to get those in close enough that makes a real difference. So what I'll do is I'm going to dab a little bit of micro crystal clear in there to fill it, and then once that's dried and hardened, then I'll come back with the color of the hull and spray that. Not spray it, I'll just dab it in with a light brush. I don't think you'll ever see it once it's in like that, and off we go. So lights are in, cockpit light, you can't necessarily see that. Oh, just lost power due to crisscross, which can happen. Interesting. So that actually shorted that out. Maybe I have to figure out a different process. All right, so we'll charge that and figure out what's going on there. And if not, we'll just get a different one. But regardless, so that's where we're at. I'm going to continue painting, and then we'll continue to modify some of the hull and things of that nature. Okay then, last you saw me, I was burning up a little bit of a halo, an auxiliary battery. So I have found, oh here it is, a great solution. This one actually has no power button to it, and $5 at Big Lots I got this for, and it's this is 1600 milliamps, so it's about twice the size of a standard 9 volt battery. But the key to this, the reason I want to move to this, is the rechargeable factor. By just putting in, plugging in a USB mini cable here, mini A, or mini B I guess it is, you can recharge this. And so my goal here is to use this plugged in, and then this will actually go out to a switch. And I've already tested it. When you hit the switch, this activates because it's got a current draw. So that's actually kind of exciting, trying to find that right piece for that. So we'll be wiring that into the base and using like a Velcro strip here to wire that up into the base. And that's kind of exciting, having that solution. I went ahead and put flat aluminum inside of the engine shrouds here, and just highlighted a little bit of the silver here in that center. I'm not going to paint that pale gray. I think it looks nicer that way. I'm going to touch up the pale gray here with a brush for a little bit, and then that is ready to, or just a regular gray I should say, and then that's ready to mount onto the other one. Does have a coat of semi-gloss right now, is drying on the Viper, and the next phase of course is working on the base. So essentially what I've got here, this is sandpaper that I folded over, and so we're going to have switches at this end and switches at this end, including a momentary switch for the strobe, and these will light up actually red, yellow, green, white, white, white with the Viper sitting here ready to take off. I'm going to paint a red stripe down the middle and a white set of stripes, which I'll probably do in tape. And then I wanted this to look kind of like steel or iron, I guess, with the interior the way that Battlestar Galactica looked. So what I did is I used a hammered black paint to spray this base, and after that had settled and dried with this type of finish, I then used an oiled bronze over the top of that with that dark black, and then the oiled bronze over that. I have as close as I can get to the interior, and the color I was going for was kind of the color of the interior when they discover back at the FTL drives that they've got a significant problem with the Galactica starting to deteriorate before their eyes. So I'm not sure. Let's see if we can get this plugged in here real quick and take a look at the lights as they're supposed to go. And let's get this here side plugged in. Just kind of a quick example. Yeah. So I still have to make these holes larger, and then I think what I'm going to do where these seams are at is leave them, because I wanted to give the look of panels or big steel plates that Viper is taking off from. And so what I did is I just took 600 grit, I guess this is 1000 grit sandpaper, and folded it under. Let's just see if I can get one of the panels here. Folded it under and then glued it back. And then what I'll do is use like a glue stick or something to glue that entire thing, and then be able to place that in. And then, like I said, I don't think I'm gonna put anything in the seam. I was thinking about doing like a black tape. But I actually think this is going to be okay the way this is going to look. Here's the two holes where both the sets of circuits go through. One will be the strobe, and then this will be lights, cockpit, and engines. Landing lights, cockpits, and engines. And then it'll be wired appropriately, switched, and so forth. So we are seeing progress here. The guns have been painted. Here's a quick example. So that is gunmetal here. This is metallic gray, aluminum, flat aluminum, and then just the buff of the color of the hull itself, or of the fuselage itself. So we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. The next question I have is whether or not to weather that Viper or leave it as is. I've got the pilot painted as far as jacket, pants, boots, and so forth. I don't have any flesh-colored paint yet, so I'll pick some of that up tomorrow, and then paint that helmet. And I really am not thrilled about painting the helmet. I'd like to do a white line around the bottom here, where their lights were lit up to light up their face, and then the gold and that Egyptian looking helmet. So that's kind of lurking in the background to get that done. So for right now, that's an update on where we're at with the Battlestar Galactica, the original series Viper. Like I said, the Viper's drying in the other room in the paint booth, and when that's done, we'll bring it back, and then we'll be able to pretty close to getting this finished. Probably tomorrow, or maybe Monday. Tonight's Saturday. Maybe Monday we'll have it done. Maybe tomorrow, because I got plenty of time to work on it. And really I need to essentially wire in the base and then get this here painted with a red stripe. And then we'll figure out where to go from there. So that is it for the Viper update.